Sometimes the train's headed in the right direction, but you got to stop for a pit stop and make sure everything's in working order and maybe take a step back and lose a little bit of time before you keep it marching up the mountain. That's the situation at Purdue. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the Power 5. Purdue, Northwestern. I'm excited about this game to open up our college football season on Thursday night. And I've knocked out my preview just recently on Northwestern. Check it out. Purdue is right up next. Jeff Brom steps in his first year and gets a lot accomplished, and this was just a completely different football team. They were the dredge of the Big Ten, along with some other programs over the past 10 years. They just didn't compete with anybody who was any good, that had any kind of pulse. But last year at 6-6, regular season, with some impressive showings against good opponents, and then a surprising win for many in watching the bowl game against Khalil Tate, in which the defense showed what actually it was performing all season in winning to finish at 7-6. Jeff Brom's known as a passing coach, an offensive mind, and he is. Check out the Big Ten Network special that they're playing in which they follow Purdue football through August camp. Jeff Brom knows how to mold young players, inspire them, teach them. He's a great offensive mind, and he knows how to build a program. What he did at Western Kentucky can be duplicated. He's a great offensive mind, and his offensive mind and strategies didn't even really come into play. Purdue was just slightly better. Basically, they prevented mistakes on offense last year. That's what made them better offensively. They weren't explosive. They weren't great on offense. It was the defense that led the way last year. The performance of quality versus 2016 to 2017 is amazing, the upgrade in performance. If you look at all the advanced metrics and even the raw statistics, Purdue jumped by 50 and 60 and 80 slots in the nation out of 130 FBS teams across the board. One example, and the most classic example of this, rushing success rate. Purdue ranked 123rd in the nation against the run in 2016. They went from number 123 to number 6 in the country. All right, let's talk of the defense, because you got to have the players on the field. The coaching took mostly players that they were using in 2016 and improved it that much. So the coaching is enormous in college football. It's a huge key, but you got to have the guys on the field as well. They have lost 5 of their top 6 defensive linemen in terms of tackles and 3 of their top 4 linebackers. They do have a very strong tackle coming back in Lorenzo Neal. Their top linebacker is Marcus Bailey. Those are the guys that are coming back, that have played and performed and produced. Brom did not go the JUCO route to try to supplement this roster in 2018, and that's going to be to his long-term credit and success. He's secure in this job. He knows that they can take a step back, and he is secure. The powers that be need to trust him. All right, the cornerbacks are gone from last season as well, both of them. So you got a sophomore in Simeon Smiley and Tim Kaysen, who will have to step in and play. They have played considerable time in the past. Redshirt freshman in Dedrick Mackey, another redshirt freshman in Kenneth Major, are in line to play meaningful snaps at corner as well. The safeties are really good in Jacob Thieneman and Navon Mosley. All right, let's get to the offense. Despite it not being great, as I mentioned, and it's not, look at the statistics. This was the best performing Purdue offense since 2009. Elijah Sindelar and David Blau wrestled the job back and forth. Guys got hurt. They had to come back in. Then there was ineffective play, and then they switched up, and they went back and forth. Sindelar finished things off by throwing for a 132 rating, passer rating, in his final 4 games, and that was with a torn ACL that they discovered after the season. Maybe they knew it, but we found out after the season, including a stellar effort in a close win against Arizona in the Foster Farms Bowl, in which Sindelar hit on 33 of 53 for 396 yards and 4 touchdowns. They've got a couple excellent tight ends. So we typically go quarterback, then we'll talk either running backs or wide receivers, and then fill in offensive line, and then say, oh yeah, Team X has a decent tight end. He caught 13 passes last year. No, we're starting with the tight ends. Bryson Hopkins and Cole Herdman are really good. Wide receivers, they're going to have a number of guys in play that played last year and produced. None of them are freakish athletes, guys that will go down the field and make enormous plays. They're intermediate guys. Jackson Anthrop, Jared Sparks, Terry Wright, Isaac Zico. But they do have a 4-star true freshman who may get some playing time, and maybe he's the guy that can take the top off the defense, and Rondale Moore. They've got a 4-man rotation at running back. They're in great shape here. Markel Jones, DJ Knox, those are guys that we have watched play Purdue football for the last several years. A couple new guys to take into account this past season that played considerable minutes, and I don't know what the rotation is going to look like this year. But Richie Worship, who had a nice season, but then missed some playing time down the stretch with an ACL in mid-November, and also Tario Fuller, who ripped up the Bobcats of Ohio for 16 carries and 142 yards early in the season, but missed the final 10 games due to an ankle injury. The offensive line returns 6 guys and 77 career starts, including Kirk Barron, who's the best player, an all-conference honorable mention guy, and Western Kentucky. The coaching staff followed, a number of players followed. Now we've got another grad transfer, Dennis Edwards, who was a 3-year starter at Western Kentucky. All right, the non-conference schedule isn't something that you're going to say, oh, wow, they're definitely going to lose that game because they've got to play USC or Clemson or somebody like that. They've got Boston College and Missouri at home. And I think the home road is overplayed by people that predict games. I believe that Purdue's going to struggle in those 2 games. I really like Mizzou this year and BC, especially BC, not against their schedule because it's one of the toughest in the nation. And talk about one of the toughest in the nation, Purdue. They got to take on it 2 quality, not great, quality Power 5 teams in Mizzou and BC at home. Against the Big Ten Eastern Division, of course, they play Indiana. That is the one sacred game in the Big Ten that has been preserved between the 2 divisions, the old Oaken Bucket game between IU and Purdue. So that closes things out, as always, in Bloomington. But the other 2 games for Purdue against the East, Ohio State, Michigan State. So this is the forecast. They lose both the Mizzou and Boston College games. Obviously, they could win both of those games. They're toss-up games, but I'm projecting Purdue to lose both of those games against Mizzou and BC. All right, I see 5 losses in Big Ten play. They lose to Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Iowa, and then somebody else. Maybe it's Northwestern on opening night. But they lose to somebody else. So Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan State are losses. There's another loss in there for Purdue, whether it's Nebraska, Northwestern, somebody else there. 5-7 for the Boilers, 4-5 in the Big Ten. Weekly newsletter starting on September 3rd. That's Monday after the first weekend of play. My take and perspective, facts, trends, stats that you won't find anywhere else, and a channel update as well. Please send us your email at MarkRogersTV@gmail.com, and we'll get that newsletter out to you starting on Monday. Right here at the Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers TV.